experimentation and seek people out. You could possibly, but even in India, it's rare. Other parts of the world, it's very rare. Um, spirituality, Eastern spirituality, became very popular in the United States in the 1970s and the late 1960s, especially in the 1970s when the Beatles became real popular and they took Maharishi Mahesh Yogi as their guru. That became very, very popular. And then Autobiography of a Yogi, Ramana Maharishi, his books is what made it popular in the United States. And then some Americans that traveled to India, like Ram Dass and others that met some authentic gurus and then came back to the United States and started to talk about their experiences. People started to come into contact with um, people who had actually been in the company of a Mahatma or a guru. They weren't Mahatmas or gurus themselves, but people would think that they were just because they had come into contact with a Mahatma or guru. Um, just to clarify what a Mahatma is somebody who is very few impurities. They still have impurities. So you can even have self-realization and still have a lot of impurities. Um, still have a lot of negative karma. You can still have a lot of ego, a lot of unhealthy ego. Ego, which is the most destructive impurity of all, is the hardest to get rid of. So even very advanced Mahatmas and even gurus can have very destructive egos. Uh, a perfect master isn't going to have a destructive ego, but Mahatmas can have destructive egos. And I've watched Mahatmas uh, that I knew personally destroy themselves because of their egos. So it's very, very hard to get rid of. Ramakrishna said it was like you're cutting onions in the kitchen and you get the onions all over your hands. And you wash your hands and you wash them and you wash them and you wash them and your hands still smell like onions. He said that's how difficult it is to get rid of the ego. Um, it's always been easy for me. Uh, uh, some people who see me on Facebook think that I'm delusional, that I have think very highly of myself, that I'm very egotistic. People that know me know that nothing could be further from the truth. Especially if you read my posts, you understand that I'm definitely not that way, and I'm not the way that I come across on Facebook either. You would have to be with me in person to understand uh, what I'm like. Um, so this addresses the point I want to get across. Uh, how many people have met uh, Paramahansa Yogananda that you know of? The SRF just had their convocation, so I've been listening to the monks because every day they'll have a monk, a woman or a man come up and they'll give their uh, uh, address, and it's exactly that. It's like a sermon that you get in a church. They decide a subject and they study the subject and they write down all the notes of what they want to say. Uh, I've never experienced anything like that with Mahatmas. Nothing was ever written down. Nothing, no subject was ever. Uh, I'm going to pick a subject and talk about a subject. Everything was spontaneous, completely spontaneous. Spiritual consciousness is completely spontaneous because I've been in the company of Mahatmas. I know that everything about them is spontaneous. Um, um, and it's amazing to witness. It's amazing to watch because they're 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 apparently thinking
Language.
on Tatsat. They're apparently thinking and they're apparently doing and they are thinking and doing, but they're not. How can you explain that? Uh, how can somebody be thinking but not be thinking? How can somebody be doing but not be doing? How can you explain that to anybody? It, it, the, the gurus try to explain it in the scriptures, but nobody understands it unless they experience somebody like that. They don't have to experience it themselves. Uh, the first thing is you experience somebody who is like that. And Ramakrishna, Yogananda, all the gurus, and all religions said the most important thing is the company of a Mahatma, the company of a guru. It doesn't have to be your guru. It just has to be somebody who has a certain amount of purity and a certain amount wisdom. And it's going to be the same wisdom. It's going to be basically Vedantic wisdom. Uh, the Upanishads, for example, the Gitas. Um, it's going to come not from their study. It's going to come from their realization. I've never met and all the Mahatmas I've lived with and gurus that I've lived with. I've never met one that studied scriptures. Uh, now, isn't that amazing? But they all give satsang. They all sit down and they'll address four people or 400 people, and it's just spontaneous uh, talking about God, talking about truth, because it's their experience, and it all tallies with the Upanishads. Um, if you don't have the benefit of that experience, it's so uh, practically impossible. I would say that it is impossible to have any true spiritual wisdom unless you have the benefit of an authentic sadhu, an authentic Mahatma or guru, because it's all concept, it's all ideas that you get from books. So uh, just like people get uh, an idea about me through most people get an idea about me through Facebook. Now, uh, you can think, well, yeah, that makes sense. Uh, what you see on Facebook about somebody that's authentic, right? Well, how often is it authentic? It usually isn't authentic at all. Uh, People post all the good things about themselves. They don't post the bad things. Not usually. Some people do. I, I I post the good things and the bad things, but in all my posts, it's even if it's the bad things, it's always for it always ends up on a positive note because I'm not a writer. I'm not a scholar in any way whatsoever. I'm not an intellectual. I don't have uh, a good memory unless it's something that I'm interested in. If it's something I'm interested in, I can have a very good memory. If it's something I'm not interested in, and like names, for example, I'm not interested in people's names, so I usually don't remember people's names. Uh, I'm not interested in most of the things that the scriptures say about God because it's words. And what are the words conveying? They're conveying uh, images to me based on my ideas. And how correct are my ideas? It didn't take me very long to understand that my ideas are all wrong. And I thought my spiritual ideas were better than most. And I realized that all of them were wrong. But I was able to, by keeping the company of those who had realization, I was able to start to uh, hear what truth is, hear what the real truth is. And most people don't speak the truth when it comes to spirituality. Uh, uh, our gurus had no problem in mentioning false gurus, uh, fake gurus, delusional gurus. It, it should be pointed out to the the uh, correct audience. It shouldn't be pointed out to people who are believers in those people. Uh, if it's for no reason whatsoever, you shouldn't disturb somebody's belief. But I have certain experience with what is real and what is not real when it comes to people. Uh, I meet uh, fake people uh, most every day. Most people are fake. Uh, Occasionally in life, you'll meet a real honest person. Most people are just projecting what they want to be or what they want you to think that they are. Uh, and so spiritual teachers are doing the same thing. They're not much different than worldly people, other than they're talking about spiritual
No,
subjects.
Guruji.
And they can be passionate about spiritual subjects. But when it comes to realization, there's very few that have spiritual realization. I was fortunate to 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 be with quite a few that did have spiritual realization. So I've been able to learn from them through observation and then through my own experience. In other words, I was guided not so much on do this or do this or and don't do that, not do's and don'ts. I wasn't trained as a yogi in that way. I was trained uh, spontaneously, not with concepts or ideas. There was a certain amount of that, but it was through uh, example. Uh, I, I I learned that those who spoke the most about spirituality were not necessarily the ones that knew the most about spirituality. I found that those who uh, spoke the least about it were very often the ones that knew the most about it. And this can be verified through uh, Yogananda and through Ramakrishna if you study their lives and our gurus and other uh, avatars and perfect masters as well. Um, so I've been watching some of the monks on the convocation and the subject matter, and it's not the subject matter of a spiritual Mahatma. These are these are monks, and they they are applauded by me, and they should be applauded by you for for becoming a monk. That shows a high level of dedication. But you shouldn't presume that they have spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge has to be demonstrated by existence, by being in their presence. You have to be with them. You have to live with them. This is to somebody messaged me this morning and they said, "Have you met Babaji? Do you know uh, about Babaji? Is Babaji um, similar to Jesus?" And everybody talks about Babaji, and I've met and I've heard many people who say that they've met Babaji, and that Babaji is their guru, and that Babaji's taught them, and it's obviously not true because the people aren't knowledgeable. And they don't even necessarily know very much about Kriya Yoga. Um, so it can't be authenticated. How can it be authenticated? Well, first of all, why should it be authenticated? It shouldn't be. Why should you have to be authentic? Why should you have to mention the name Babaji? Those who have met Babaji know Babaji, but even those who have met him haven't necessarily met him. Just like if you meet me on if you see me on a corner of a street and pass me by, or if we look at each other and acknowledge each other, it doesn't mean that I know you or that you know me. You have to spend time with a person, and you have to be honest with them, and they have to be honest with you. If they're not honest with you, then the chances of you getting to very, very difficult. And if you're not honest with them, uh, for them to know you is very, very difficult. So it requires honesty. So that's the guru-disciple relationship is based on honesty. And this is what all the scriptures say. This is what Yogananda says. This is what Ramakrishna says. And this is a fact. Uh, so much more so for the disciple than the guru. Uh, a, a guru, if a guru is authentic, uh, does know your thoughts. Uh, most people don't realize this. You can't be dishonest. You can try to be dishonest with a guru, uh, but you can't be. Won't necessarily not they're not going to make an example of you for being dishonest. There's not really any benefit for you for them to do that. But a guru does know your thoughts. I each and every one of you. If I know you, if I'm interested in you, if you're interested in me, I know your thoughts. I know your intentions. I know what you're doing in life. There's there's nothing you can hide from me. So the worst thing you could possibly do is not be is to be dishonest with me because I know when you're being dishonest. And to be dishonest with somebody when they know that you're being dishonest, there's nothing worse than that. Uh, Especially if you want some benefit, it would be like um, you go to someone to learn how to ride a horse, and they ask you, "Well, what experience do you have with horses?" And you say, "Oh, I have a lot of experience, but I want to get better with my riding." And because you want the teacher to think highly of you. Oh, well, he's going to be a good student. And you say, "Okay, well, let's do the basics. Let's let's each get on our horses." And you can't get on the horse. You don't know how to get on the horse. You can't do it. You try to and you fall off. You can't get all the way up there because the horse is up really high. And it's obvious that you don't know very much about horses. Uh, One of the first jobs I had, because I loved bicycles, was in a bicycle shop. Um, if you've ever gone for a job interview, you know you have to present yourself in the best way, just to stand out to get the job. And so I interviewed, and I did know a lot about bicycles because I worked on my own bicycles. And so I interviewed for a job as the bicycle mechanic. And he said, "How knowledgeable are you about bicycles?" And I said, "Very knowledgeable." And he said, "How good are you on working a bicycle?" And I said, "Very good." Uh, I knew that I wasn't very good, but I did know the basics. So I was hired for the job because of my enthusiasm, but it became evident very quickly on the first day of the job that there was a lot about bicycles I didn't know how to do. There were a lot of things I was doing in the repairs that weren't tightened properly, weren't adjusted properly. In other words, I still had a lot of learning to do. And so I learned uh, everything about bicycles from experts on bicycles. I every expert that I could find, authentic experts on bicycles. I went to I worked with them and I asked them questions and I learned from them. And then I would learn from them and then I would practice myself. And then if something wasn't quite right, I would go back to them and I would say, I'm trying to do this, but it's not quite working. Can you show me again? And they would see where my mistake was, and then they would correct my mistake, and I would try it again, and I would be somewhat successful. And then I would keep trying and keep trying, and I would keep doing, and I would keep doing, and I would keep doing, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. I became a master mechanic on bicycles. People would come from all over the country just to have me work on their bicycles because I could do it without thinking. I could do it effortlessly. Uh, I could just look at a bicycle and see what it was, what it needed. Uh, uh, and there's all sorts of little nuances, uh, uh, intuitive little nuances to bicycle adjustments to make them pro uh, properly work. They're very, very finicky. For example, do you know the difference between an English uh, bottom bracket and an Italian bottom bracket? Do you even know what a bottom bracket is? What's the difference? Well, the bottom bracket is the uh, spindle that goes through where the pedals attach to the crankset. So they can be very, very high precision, extreme high precision, like a race car. Each faces of the frame had to be perfectly aligned. So you take special handmade expensive tools to machine the outer surface so that the bottom bracket, the thread in that they're perfectly matched. But then they have to be perfectly adjusted, not too loose, not too tight. It's a little too loose, and it's going to be wobbly. It's a little too tight. There's friction, and friction slows you down. So how do you know all that? Well, an English bottom bracket is 68 millimeters, and an Italian bottom bracket is 70 millimeters. Um, so if you brought your bike in for me to work on it and adjust it, if I didn't know the difference, I would try to adjust if you needed a new spindle, if there was an English spindle for an English bottom bracket, I would probably put that in there, and it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work correctly. It would still be in there. It would still be a bicycle. It would still move, but it wouldn't be correct. It wouldn't be right. And I'm saying that because I didn't know when I first did that. Because there's things I learned on expert mechanics. What's the proper tool? What's the proper product? What's the proper adjustment? It's not any different in learning spirituality. It's exactly the same in life. Everything that you experience in life is exactly the same in spirituality. Real authentic spiritual knowledge and spiritual realization is exactly the same. Um, so if I'm really, if I read some books about Paramahansa Yogananda and I become really, really enthusiastic about Paramahansa Yogananda, and I did because it resonated with me. And so I fell in love with Paramahansa Yogananda just through his writing, because your energy is conveyed through your writing. So somebody who's in tune with that energy will have a feeling through your writing, just like um, um, if I loved you and I sent you a letter, so a letter comes in the mail and it has a stamp on it. The postman delivers it. It has my name on the outside. It has your name on the outside. You know me. I know you. You know what the content of the letter is going to be. It's going to be a love letter, right? So suppose you get a letter and it has your name and your address on it. Same envelope, same stamp. Uh, Looks exactly the same. And the sender, it says from the government. Uh, you're going to be kind of scared to open that letter, aren't you? Whereas if it's someone you're familiar with, you're going to be, especially someone you love, you're going to be eager to open it up. But you haven't even read the contents. Uh, Maybe the person that loves you, he's sending, you think it's a love letter. Maybe they sent a letter to break up with you. Maybe it's really bad news. And maybe that letter from the government that you're so afraid of is maybe a check, maybe a refund check. Uh, uh, and in the United States, we get mail every day. Uh, Not as much now as we used to, but we get mail every day. And you get a lot of junk mail. Now it's on email, but you used to get it delivered to your post box. Lots and lots of junk mail. It's just advertisement after advertisement after advertisement, and it's usually real fake. They try to make it interesting, and just to get you to open it up. And then they learned that people could see by the outer look of the envelope if it was something personal or if it was something commercial. So they would start making the letters look personal on the outside. And then you open it up and you say, oh, it's an advertisement, even though it was done in personal writing. Uh, so I would get a lot of junk mail, and I would usually rip it up and put it in the trash. I wouldn't even look at it. And one day I was going through the mail and I was ripping it up, and then I was just about to rip it and put it in the trash, and for some reason I opened it up. I don't know why, but it was a check for $700. There's no telling how many checks I might have ripped up. But spirituality is like this. It has to be authentic. So the contents has to be real, and you won't know the real. You won't know the authentic spiritual teacher from the fake spiritual teacher unless you experience that person, unless you come into contact with them. You can get an idea through the reading. Uh, First book I read was the Bhagavad Gita, and I knew that was truth. I knew that all of it was truth. Uh, was it edited? I wasn't old enough to even know what editing was. So it didn't even occur to me that maybe it was edited. I didn't know what editing was. So I just read the whole Gita as truth, which happens to be truth. I don't see. I'm, of course, there's translations, and there can be uh, something lost in translation, especially between Sanskrit, which is a much better way of communicating than English. Uh, so I would read Yogananda's books, and I read it. I read them like I would read the Gita, and so I felt a real personal connection with Yogananda, and and that connection was authentic because it resonated with me because I absorbed what he was saying, and I tried to absorb it. I tried to think. I didn't presume that I understood it. I tried to. I would read it and reread it and reread it, trying to understand what he was really saying, and then I tried to uh, 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 remove my misunderstanding. Are you understanding this correctly? Is there a possibility that you're misunderstanding it? Is there a better way of understanding it? I would test, I would test it myself, and then I would test it in life to see if it worked in life. So that's how I would read. That's how I would read scriptures. Um, and everything I read of Yogananda's was always perfect. I never had any doubts about it. Uh, but still, I didn't know Yogananda. I'd never met him. Uh, and Encinitas, back when Yogananda would be at the ashram, uh, people don't think about this, but outside maintenance people would come to the ashram. So outside maintenance people would come and do the plumbing, for example. I've heard firsthand accounts, stories. They would come in and do the plumbing, or they come and do some kind of repair. They might go into Yogananda's room to do a repair on a window, for example, and Yogananda would be in the room. And they came in, they're an expert on windows. They came in to fix the window. They didn't come in to see the guru. Came in to fix the window. So they would come in, they would fix the window, they would see Yogananda, they would say hi, and then they would leave. And never came back to see Yogananda again. They they did what they came to do. Came to do. Uh, Yogananda didn't have some hypnotic effect on everybody that he met. There's stories that he had hypnotic type effects on people, but those were people that were open to it. There were so many people not open to it and thought uh, had Yogananda in very disregard and thought very badly of Yogananda. In fact, the majority of people thought badly of Yogananda when he came to the United States. Now, if we just read the books of SRF, we would never even consider that. I never considered it. I never uh, put too much consideration into the real life circumstances of the man, the guru, teaching in America, going from city to city, going from situation to situation, interacting with person to person to person. People in general, well, people are all corrupted. I was corrupted. I'm probably still corrupted to a certain extent, but everybody's corrupted, and everybody doesn't see everything perfectly all the time. Uh, Even uh, two authentic gurus can see things differently at times. They don't necessarily again see, well, that's a six. No, that's not a six. That's a nine. And then a perfect master would say, well, it's a six and a nine. It depends on your perspective. But there's gurus that will argue, no, it's not a six, it's a nine. Uh, no, God is not with form. God is formless. Uh, Ramakrishna told Totapuri all of his experiences with God in form. Kali, in particular, Totapuri said, as a hallucination, it's a figment of your imagination. You want to believe it, and so you believe it. You want to see her, so you've convinced yourself, and you think about her and you imagine her, so you imagine that you see her, but you don't really see her. It's all it's all an hallucination. Your mind is overheated. Uh, I can see that you have the capability. Let me initiate you into knowledge, which knowledge is non-dualism. Uh, Totapuri did not believe in God with form whatsoever. And still, in India, there's people on both sides. God is without form, God is with form. No, God is with form, God is without form. What about the gods? What about Kali? What about Shiva? Uh, are they just made up stories? Are they just stories about the qualities of God? And so they make up a Shiva as the Shiva qualities of God. I've met uh, Mahatmas that think that. Uh, I know from experience that isn't the whole truth. Um, um, so Tapuri said God is formless. God isn't with form. And so Ramakrishna said, uh, Okay, I'm interested in taking initiation into the formless. Let me go ask my mother. And Totapuri thought, oh, what a simple boy. He's going to go ask his mother. But he went to the Kali temple to ask Kali. And she said, yeah, it would be good for you uh, uh, to take initiation from Totapuri. So I won't go through the whole story. Totapuri gave him initiation. It's the same initiation that I give because I'm also initiated in the lineage of Totapuri. And Ramakrishna very quickly went into Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And there's different types of samadhis. Most samadhis are difficult. Sabbakalpa samadhis are primarily the lower samadhis. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is very rare. Most yogis never experience it. It's very rare. Uh, Ramakrishna went into Nirvikalpa Samadhi uh, very quickly, and he stayed in Nirvikalpa Samadhi for days. Totapuri would put water in his mouth and stayed with him. And Totapuri never stayed in one place for more than 3 days. So eventually he comes out of Nirvikalpa Samadhi and Totapuri says, well, now now you know. Now you have knowledge that God is formless, right? I say, yes, I have knowledge now that God is formless, but God is also with form. And Totapuri said, no, how can this be? And so uh, Ramakrishna, uh, the story goes, I think he took him to the temple, to Kali's temple, and asked for her because if he wanted something, he would ask her, and in most cases, she would give it to him. And she said, please show my guru that that you are real. Appear to him, and she appeared to Totapuri. Uh, and Totapuri was absolutely, he couldn't believe it. I mean, he was rubbing his eyes, and he was like, "How is this possible? This goes against everything I know. This goes against everything I believe. But I'm seeing it. I'm experiencing it with my own eyes." And so Ramakrishna got him to say, "Yes, God can be without form, and God can also be with form," which is true. It really isn't mysterious. If you're spiritually awakened, nothing is mysterious. Everything is an open book. Things are only mysterious if you don't know about them. If you meet somebody for a first time, if you don't know anything about them, and maybe they look a little exotic, maybe they're from another country, they're kind of mysterious. It's a mysterious, interesting person. And then they start talking, and they're not so mysterious anymore. They say, "Oh, well, it's just a regular person." Uh, so uh, someone who has spiritual uh, uh, awakening, all of these things about God are self-evident. I mean, it's clear. So what is the formless? Well, you experience the formless every night when you go to sleep. You're not aware of your form. You're not aware of any form in your dreamless sleep, but you're unconscious. So you're not conscious uh, that uh, everything is without form. But that's what's happening. And then when you have a dream, then you start to have astral forms, a type of astral form. And then when you wake up to the familiar forms. Well, everything is with form, but but I know it because I'm conscious, and my usual state is worldly consciousness. So that's what I believe in. I believe in the world because that's my habitual state, is the world. Well, what if you had an experience of samadhi? the formless in meditation. It would be, oh, this is completely different from everything I thought, from everything I was taught. My mother and father, my teachers never taught me this, but I experienced it in meditation, and I have a memory of it. Uh, but I can't even register it in my mind. My mind doesn't even have a classification for it. So spiritual realization is relatively, and no pun intended, but it's relatively easy if you have an enlightened guru, because they can explain these things to you. And it's lack of understanding that is the obstacle to realization most of the time. Uh, your your misunderstanding doesn't even allow you to get into the same room with the realization, much less have the realization. You have to get into the room first, and then you have to stay in the room for a while before the realization comes. You might have to say, well, if you want to meet so and so, go to this place, and he shows up there from time to time. And so, what time? I said, from time to time. And so you go there and you wait and you wait and you wait and you really want to see the person. So you wait and you wait until they show up. But if you're not real serious about it, you're looking at your watch and say, well, forget it. They're not showing up. So uh, spiritual realization, it's really just a matter of having a true guru, a guru who knows reality, knows the truth, and not a guru who's deluded or a guru who's fake. And then you have to want to know the truth, meaning you have to approach the guru without any concepts of what it is that you want. You have to be like a child. Does a little baby have concepts of what it wants? It wants what it wants. It doesn't it doesn't have to it can't verbally, it can't tell its mother what it wants, but the mother knows. The baby doesn't know what it wants, but the mother knows. But the baby does know what it wants because it wants it, but it doesn't consciously know what it wants. Um, so the relationship is similar to that. That can't come from books. That's not possible with books. You're not having any spiritual realization from reading books. Uh, I saw. I'm interested in certain things, so I watch them on YouTube. One is I watch videos about architecture. I like architecture, and I saw a little thing, and I recognized the face right away, and it was Sri M. And that face is easy to recognize. But I was in the Frankfurt airport, and I was uh, disembarking. I was going through the to the airport, and then he and I crossed paths. So I saw him in person at the airport, and he was coming off of first class and going into the private lounge, and I was coming off of uh, economy class and going into the regular area. But I saw this morning, and it had his face, which I recognized right away. I don't have a high opinion of him, so I wasn't thinking very much about it. But it said, oh, let me tell you exactly what it says. And the picture, if I can share the picture, if I can figure out how to do it, it says it even better. It's just so ridiculous. But people believe this. People believe it. I meet people every day that believe this nonsense because they don't know any better. You have to know better to know better. Let's see. Okay, well, I can't find it. So as a a beautiful AI header of YouTube. And that leads me into another conversation about AI. I mean, AI is the ruination of spiritual teachings. It's so horrible. Nothing authentic is being communicated through artificial intelligence when it comes to spiritual realization. It's making it harder and harder and harder. So it's an AI rendering of Shriyam, and then a picture of Babaji, and there's a, a, a girl in front of Babaji. The girl happens to be Caucasian for some reason, and it says, "I witnessed Babaji cure a girl of cancer." Like in big bold print, Babaji cured a girl of cancer, and it had like 600,000 views and a couple 100,000 likes. People love hearing that kind of stuff. What, what does that what does that say? What does that say to you? Babaji cured a girl of cancer. How does that have anything whatsoever to do with spiritual realization? Can any of you explain to me how that has anything whatsoever to do with spiritual realization? A guru curing you of cancer. How does that help anybody? They say, oh, well, it instills faith. Well, what is faith? Have you ever thought about what faith is? Faith is experience. It's not your experience. You haven't been cured of cancer. If you've been cured of cancer, if Babaji cured you of cancer, that would make a real enlightening impression on you. But Babaji curing somebody of cancer, how does that help you uh, realize God in any way whatsoever? People, doctors are curing people of cancer every day. Savitar is a doctor. Uh, my doctor at Gangaram, Dr. A.J. Sharma, Savitar witnessed Dr. A.J. Sharma cure me of cancer. I could say that Archana cured me of cancer. Now that's real. It's not made up. Dr. A.J. Sharma did cure me of cancer. When I woke up, he was there. I woke up and he said, I've cured you of cancer. I took all the cancer out. He said, I was real aggressive and I cut, cut it all out of your bladder. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear because that was the purpose of the operation. Um, that would give me just as much faith in God as hearing of Babaji curing a girl of cancer. What's remarkable about being cured of cancer? People are spontaneously cured of cancer all the time without any intervention from anybody. So it'd be saying like Babaji grew a blade of grass. Oh my gosh, he grew a blade of grass and he nourished it, and water came out of the sky and sun shone on the grass, and the grass grew. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that amazing? It's the exact same thing. It's just it's fake. It's funny. I would be so embarrassed to have something like that in my name, but people believe it. Um, that if there's certain gurus that are popular that I know to be fake, if it's if I'm speaking to people, I would never say it to people unless you came to my satsang. I would say it to you, but I wouldn't. I would never try to correct anybody in their belief whatsoever. They, they have their belief, and they have their belief for a reason, and I don't know why they have that belief. Uh, if you have a belief, you have it for a reason, and it's probably good that you have it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it. There's a reason why I believed the things that I believed about spirituality at the time when I was young. That brought me to the point to where I am now, to where I had those beliefs that I really believed in. That brought me to a certain point, and that belief was shown to be untrue. Well, to me, it was true at the time, and it brought me to a certain point, and and until I realized that it wasn't true, because it would have hindered me beyond that point. So nobody's met Yogananda. Uh, nobody's meeting Kriya Yoga masters. I can name a couple of Kriya Yoga masters, but they're not very popular. The one that's authentic that you can find is Paramahansa Praganananda, and he's the spiritual head of Kriya Yoga International. He's an authentic Paramahansa. He's an authentic perfect master. Uh, how can I say that? Well, because I know what a perfect master is. I can see by the signs of a perfect master. I can see in his face. I can see in his eyes that he knows. It's obvious to me. And it's obvious to me, the ones that don't know, that say that they know. Um, so if you really want to learn Kriya Yoga, he would be an excellent person to go to. But I wouldn't recommend him to everybody for Kriya Yoga. For for many people, it's much better to go to Self-Realization Fellowship. Much better. They need that type of support. They need that type of instillment of inspiration that you're not going to get from Paramahansa Praganananda. Paramahansa Praganananda gives you uh, instruction. He gives you philosophy with knowledge and instruction. Uh, you better already have it. You better already have the faith. You better already have the enthusiasm. Otherwise, the instruction isn't going to do you any good. Uh, some other people, it's much better for them to go to Ananda. Uh, Ananda also teaches Kriya Yoga, and in another way, it's better for people. I could explain the differences, but it would take too long. Uh, so some people, I recommend that they go to Self-Realization Fellowship. Some of them I recommend that they go to Ananda. Some I recommend that they go to Kriya Yoga International if they're asking for my recommendation. If somebody posted on Facebook, which they do all the time, where should I go? I remember the first time I saw it. Where should I go for Kriya Yoga, for authentic Kriya Yoga initiation? And I was new to Facebook. I never heard of a question being asked so casually about where who do I go to find God? Who do I go to for spiritual instruction? It's like where do I go to get pink lemonade? Uh, what what's the address? How much is the price for the pink lemonade? It's being asked like that. I mean, I grew up in India with Mahatmas. I wasn't taught like that. I was taught humility and respect. And if you didn't have humility and respect, if you didn't have honor for the teacher would have absolutely nothing to do with you whatsoever. They would tell you to get out, get out of my room, get out of here, don't come back. This is what they would say. Read the ancient books on gurus and you'll hear these stories. It's always been this way. It's not that way anymore. They're trying to lure people in. Here, here, look at this attractive. You can be healthy. You can be happy. You can be sexy. You can have money. Practice Kriya Yoga. You can find peace. You can find happiness. None of it's true. Why do they say that? Some of you might be shocked right now that it isn't true. Maybe that's why you're here. None of it's true. How do I know this? Well, I've practiced Kriya Yoga for how long has it been? 55 years. And I've been with Mahatmas and I've been with masters. I've actually been with them. I've touched the feet of perfect masters hundreds of times. I've had their darshan. Uh, Dozens of Mahatmas. I've lived with them in the same room. I've eaten with them. I've done everything with them. Gone to the toilet with them. Everything. Um, how many have done that? I didn't know that other people hadn't done this. I did it because I had to. I was compelled to. That's what I wanted, and that's what I went after. And I would not be impeded in any way whatsoever until that's what I had. So that's why I had it. Well, everything is easy now. Uh, a note that I took down last night. We we, we know of Yogananda's story of coming to the spiritual Congress. What what's it called in Chicago? The Spiritual Congress, where all the religious leaders.
Parliament of Religions.
Yeah, Parliament of Religions. We know the story of Yogananda going to the Parliament of Religions and his conversation with Sri Yukteswar about it. And Sri Yukteswar said, "Go. All doors will be open to you. In other words, it'll be easy." And uh, well, do you know that Yogananda wasn't the first yogi to go to the Parliament of Religions? Vivekananda went to the same Parliament of Religions, and it was anything but easy. Uh, he got the invitation to go, and it's a long voyage back then. They didn't have airplanes, and he didn't have any money. He arrived, and the long voyage by boat, he lost his invitation. He lost his letter. The letter had the address. The letter had the names and the connections, and he lost it in his room, or he lost it somewhere on the boat. And he arrived in America, and he couldn't find it. He didn't know anybody in America. What did he do? Did Ramakrishna intervene and say, "Oh, my dear Narendra, uh, all doors will be open to you. Uh, just make a left turn and then make a right turn and then go 300 yards and go here." And that's GPS. It's not Guru's grace. So he he lived out on the street. He didn't have any food. He went for days without any food, and the rain and the cold, uh, uh, sleeping under trees because he didn't know where to go and he didn't have any money. And he happened to wander into a wealthy neighborhood, and it was the wealthy neighborhoods that went to the Parliament of Religions. It wasn't the poor people; it was the wealthy people. And he was in a wealthy section of town, and they noticed this strange dark-skinned man with a turban um, out on the street, and one of these big, huge Victorian houses like they have here in this little town I live in. The same houses that were built then are built in this town. Um, and it just happened to be a woman who uh, was going to go to the Department of Religions. And she's a wealthy woman. She lived in the house, and she she saw him, and she said, "Well, the poor man, he must be here for he must be." one of the speakers for the Paramahansa religions. He's obviously from India, and he looks lost. I'm going to go help him. And so she went out and said, are you here for the Paramahansa religions? And he said, yes, ma'am, I lost my invitation. And she saw that he was dirty. He saw that he was tired, saw that he was hungry, he was thirsty. And she said, well, come into my house. And she opened her whole house to him. He had a bath. She cooked him dinner. He stayed in her house. Her limousine driver drove him to the Parliament of Religions. Uh, she told all of her friends that I had this Swami living in my house. They were all people that were genuinely interested. They went and listened to him speak, and his uh, voice rang of truth and strength, like Yogananda's did, uh, uh, just as much so. Um, and and all the doors were open to him. But did it happen like we think that it happens? No, it happened in like real life. Real life happens. Real, that's the unvarnished truth of how things happen for genuine, authentic spiritual people. It happens just like it happens to you. It's just that you don't necessarily recognize it, that it's happening to you. God is opening. If you want God, God opens all the doors for you. You might be thinking like I did myself. Well, who am I? Uh, a boy born in America. I must have really bad karma. That's what I seriously thought. I was real depressed about it. And who am I to ever have a guru? I, I could never have a, a guru teach me about God. It's not even possible for me. I mean, who am I to have that? And that was my serious thought. Uh, whereas now people are, well, the gurus need to come and be interviewed by me before I decide who to accept as my guru. That's almost the attitude. I'm gonna go on YouTube. I'm gonna pick out the best guru. The I'm gonna pick out the guru who knows Babaji, who's been taught by Babaji. I'm gonna pick him out for my guru. Um, the, the 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 ones that Babaji is taught personally. I want him for my guru. It's nothing like that. Yes, Sonny?
Guruji, how does one think that what is God's will? Like you were saying that, if it is God's will, things happen around. And like Vivekananda's story is showing that there were obstacles, but he never doubted it's God's will to go uh, to the parliament. I also know Yoganandaji's story when Encinitas temple went into the sea. So he did not, he said it's a sign that I should build more temples, something like that. He started building more temples. So, how do you know that what is God's will? Because when things are not working, sometimes you feel, is it God's will I should go in that direction, or is he thinking otherwise?
Yeah, Yogananda doubted everything that was happening, everything he was doing. Don't believe the stories that he didn't have doubts about it. He had doubts about all of it. Vivekananda had doubts about everything he was doing. Uh, I know the stories of Yogananda firsthand, and he had doubts about everything. Now what is true is that they had very strong conviction. So if they get knocked down, they say, well, that was a learning experience for me. I'm not going to stay down. I'm going to get back up, and I'm going to get back up even stronger than before, and I'm going to get back up even faster and better. Whereas a regular person gets knocked down and they say, "Oh, it's God's will. It just wasn't meant to happen." Uh, so I won't even try anymore because it's not God's will. Maybe, maybe in another lifetime. That's the only difference. So Yogananda's story, real story, Vivekananda's real story is the same as your story. It's the same as everybody's story. What is God's will? You're living God's will right now. Otherwise, it wouldn't be happening. Do you seriously think that you have some special power to go up against the will of God? That you're that powerful that you can do that? And who are you? You're 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 made by God. You're living by the grace of God right now. So you say, well, okay, the Bible says that God gives us self-will. Uh, yeah, He also gave you a body. He also gave you a mind. He also gave you a world to live in, gave you air, gave you a sun. And how is that any different? Uh, he gave you self-will too. Well, I will to eat. I will to go see what that is. I will do this, do that. It's all by God's will. If God didn't will it, it wouldn't happen. There would be nothing to eat. There would be no sun. There'd be no life. There'd be no you. So all of these are misunderstandings because you're not, people aren't getting authentic, proper teaching. Uh, the the proper teachings were coming from Yogananda, but you had to be there with Yogananda. But you also had to be able to understand it. Uh, I've read every single book on Swami Kriyananda, and I've just like every book I read, I try to really understand him and his background and where he's coming from, and based on my experience, my experience with Mahatmas and my experience with spiritual seekers. And Kriyananda was exceptional, but he wasn't exceptionally uh, wise. He wasn't exceptionally realized at all. But he was learned about spiritual topics, and he did have uh, 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 spent a lot of time with Yogananda. But did he have realization? No. But he did have a good memory, and he could tell stories of Yogananda, and he understood yoga philosophy. So if you read his books, most of it is about, and I've read every book several times, and I've studied them. It's yoga philosophy, and then there's stories of what he also personally learned from Yogananda, his his personal realization. There's some experiences, but there isn't there there there's realizations like I realize today is a cloudy day. That's the realization. Uh, Another realization is I realize that uh, it's a cloudy day, but it's also sunny if you go above the clouds. That's another realization, isn't it? And then another person is I realize it's a cloudy day, but the sun is above the clouds, and I realize that the sun is billions of years old, and it's scientists can tell you how the sun propels itself uh, uh, dynamically, kinetically, dynamically, and some type of a magnetism to, and eventually it'll exhaust itself. Uh, Nobody knows when. And then there's higher perspectives than that. And then there's the perspective of Urvakalpa Samadhi is there is no sun. It's an illusion. There's no such thing as a sun. It's an illusion. It isn't even true. Uh, which I can easily prove to you that nothing you see in the world is real. It's not one single thing in the world that's real. But we think that it is. Everybody else thinks that it is. So because they think it is, we think it is. Because they teach that it is. They say, well, you have to. go to school, you have to study, you have to get a job, you have to get married, you have to have children, you have to provide for your future, you have to give me grandchildren. And you say, oh, well, those are the things I have to do. So those are the things I'm going to do because I'm looking around. That's what everybody else is doing. That's what my friends are doing. And I don't want to be different from my friends. That's how most people live their lives. Um, Interested in Kriya Yoga. Well, my friends are going to are reading this book, so I'll read that. I'll read this book, or they're reading that book. I'll read that book. They're reading about Nisarga Gadatta, so I'll read Nisarga Gadatta. Or they're reading about Yogananda, so I'll read Yogananda. How many people really search for themselves? I searched for myself. I didn't have anybody's advice on what to do. I didn't have the internet. There were no books on what to do in my situation. I was in Oklahoma, United States. What does a 15-year-old do in Oklahoma, United States about spiritual realization? Is there any book on that? No, of course not. Um, so I I had to learn by doing. How many people do that? Not very many. The ones that are enlightened are the ones that do. They're not waiting around for something to happen. They're not following the crowd. Uh, they're especially not following the crowd. If there's a crowd in this world, it's a crowd for something worldly. Very few people want something spiritual. Everybody wants something worldly. Everybody wants money, food, sex, property, to be popular, to be pretty, to be handsome, to be healthy. Everybody wants that. So I'll present Kriya Yoga as being you'll be popular, you'll have magnetism, you'll be healthy, you'll attract wealth, you'll attract money. It's all cow dung. It has no substance. Ramakrishna took gold and he took Ganges clay. And he said, what's the difference? Well, to somebody who wants uh, uh, to buy something, the gold has value. The clay doesn't have any value. Well, Ramakrishna didn't want to buy anything. He wanted God. He didn't want to buy. He didn't want to buy. He didn't want to buy anything. So what was the difference to him? There's no difference. But to other person, there's a big difference. So to to worldly people, there's big differences in everything in the world. Everything in the world is different. Uh, this guru is good. This guru is better. This guru is the best. Uh, I think I made a couple of posts this morning. Uh, um, you're you're going to have to become enlightened by yourself. Nobody's going to enlighten you. There's no magic there's no magic guru that's going to make you enlightened. If you if you're getting good advice from a real guru, it's because you've earned it. Because you've done something in your previous life that's brought you to this point. It's because you've earned it through the tapas that you've done in a previous life. Tapas can be meditation, it can be discipline, it can be just searching, or it can be doubting the things of the world that everybody else is going after. Uh, well, immediately I knew that there was nothing in this world that I wanted. So money had no value to me. Girls had no value to me. Property had no value to me. Job had no value to me. Education had no value to me. My mother and father had no value to me. Only thing that had value to me is I wanted to know God. I wanted to be with God. I wanted to experience God. I specifically said I want God intoxication. I know exactly what I wanted. That's what I wanted because I knew that God intoxication is experience. Uh, James Lynn Yogananda's most advanced disciple was God intoxicated. I know what God intoxication is. I've observed it in the masters and in the Mahatmas. Those that were with Yogananda, they observed it in him. Uh, there's lots of stories. Uh, many people observed it with Ramakrishna. The Ramakrishna was an avatar. Now, there are some exceptions to what I said. An avatar can make you uh, enlightened, and even if it isn't meant to be, an avatar does have that power. So there were uh, disciples of Ramakrishna who wanted to experience what he was experiencing. Obviously, if you see somebody got intoxicated, then that's what you want. Uh, uh, and they said, sir, I want what you have. I want samadhi. I want God intoxication. And he knew the direction of a person's life just by looking at them. He said, no, it's not what you want. Uh, you don't want that. And he said, no, that's what I want. I don't want anything else. And he could tell that they had desires for other things, that they thought they desired God because they were with him. But they also had desires for other things. They had desires for things of the world. And you can't have both. So on a few instances, they were persistent. They said, yes, it's what I want. They said, no, you don't. They said, yes, that's what I want. They said, yes, that's what I want. Are you sure that's what you want? They said, yes, that's what I want. Uh, I said, well, I don't think that's really what you want. And then he would concede. He would say, okay, and he would touch them in a certain way, and they would go into God intoxication, and they didn't like it. It was like um, it it went against their grain because they had a worldly grain. If you have worldly desires, and then you no longer have the desires that you want, it's like I I thought God intoxication would replace my worldly desires because they're superior, right? But they don't replace your worldly desires. Your worldly desires have to be removed before you have God intoxication. An avatar can give you the God intoxication, but because the worldly desires are still there, it's going to be there's going to be a big conflict. So they weren't able to sleep, they weren't able to eat because they would look at the food and they saw this is God. They would look at their body and they say this is God. They would look at other people. It's not my mother. It's not my father. It's God. It's not a dog. It's God. Uh, I can't sleep because I'm always awake. I can't eat because I'm never hungry. I'm getting thin. I'm getting sunken eyes. Uh, People think I'm crazy. People are avoiding me. And they would go back and say, please take this samadhi back. And he would take it back. Uh, it's a similar thing with all the false notions about Kundalini. Uh, um, Now, what is true about Kundalini and what is true about these things is uh, you have to be honest about what you want. What do you really want? You have to be honest about that. You have to search yourself to see what you want. And I did that. I knew what I wanted, and I got what I wanted. But I was very young, so I wasn't matured. So uh, having got what I wanted, uh, I started to mature. And as you mature, karma is like seeds that have been planted. And once that seed has started to mature in the field of water and sun and nutrients, it starts to sprout. So as I started to mature, my unfulfilled desires started to become evident. And so then I started to become aware of, well, I have, I have a desire for this. I have a desire for that. And one, one thing that I am, there's a lot of things that I'm not, but one thing that I am is I'm extremely uh, one pointed, single pointed. I won't be denied. I won't be deterred. If I want something, I go for it 100%. And I saw each of my desires. I went after each of my desires 100%. Big, elaborate desires. I mean, I wanted to be wealthy. I wanted to live on an island. I wanted to have Mercedes cars, Porsche cars. I wanted to have uh, the most expensive bicycle, the most expensive watch, the most expensive of everything. I wanted to not have to work. I wanted to have plenty of money to not have to work. So I got all of those things very easily. Uh, I wanted all of a sudden, I was a celibate yogi. I had no interest in girls whatsoever. I wasn't bothered by actions for girls. Um, I went to India. I never thought about girls. Uh, all through school, I never I never went out on a date with a girl. Um, but then, as I started to mature, all of a sudden, I said, "Well, I want to." I still remember the day. I said, I want to get married." And there were three girls that I knew, not girlfriends, but just girls that I knew, and uh, I, I liked them, and it could have been any one of those three girls. At that particular moment, I would have asked them, uh, let's get married." And so there was one particular girl that was uh, there on that particular day. So I asked her. I said, let's get married, and she immediately said yes. And I said, and then I wanted to have children. I wanted to have a lot of children, and she also wanted to have children. So I had children. And had three children very quickly. Uh, so every desire I've had, I fulfilled it very quickly because if I wanted it, that's what I wanted, and that's what I wanted. That's what I went after. And you can do that, and you should do that. Well, isn't that in conflict with giving up your desires to find God? Uh, who can give up their desires to find God? Who can do that? Do you know anybody that can do that? Have you ever met anybody that can do that? Buddha, maybe? Have you ever met Buddha? An avatar? Ramakrishna? Have you ever met a Ramakrishna? Have you ever tried to give up your desires? A real desire that you had? Have you tried to do it? If it's a real desire, not just a casual desire. Casual things you're not interested in, is you can easily give them up. But if it's a real desire, you can't give it up because it cannot be given up. It has to be fulfilled. So the way you work out desires is you practice your sadhana, practice your tapas. You make that as your number one priority. And then your second priority is you go after your desires. You do those two in tandem. Uh, that way you're not creating new samskaras, you're not creating new karma. You're fulfilling your karma, you're fulfilling your desires. When the desire is fulfilled, then it's gone forever. I had one particular desire that lasted for uh, 30 years. And I enjoyed it for 30 years. Every day was absolute happiness for me. It happened to be my work. I very rarely ever worked for somebody or a job. I always uh, worked for myself. So I loved bicycles, and that's what I was focused on. I was focused on bicycles. So I went from buying a bicycle, buying a better bicycle, buying a better bicycle, working on my bicycle, thinking about bicycles. But I still did my meditation, and then I would go to bicycle shops. I would talk to people at the bicycle shops. I would look at the bikes. I would get knowledge about more bikes, and as I got more knowledge, I would want better bikes that I didn't know were better bikes. That I didn't know were better bikes than the bikes I had, and I wanted those. And I finally got the the best bicycle in the world, which was a Colnago, a handmade Italian uh, frame of Campanella components, considered the best Tour de France bicycle in the world. Uh, that wasn't enough. I love that bike, but then I wanted a DeRosa. That was an even rarer bike, so I got a DeRosa, and that wasn't enough. I wanted a Mozzie. A Mozzie is an even rarer bike than the DeRosa, so I had all three. Then I was satisfied. I had the Colnago, I had the DeRosa, and I had the Mozzie. For some reason, every desire that I've had, it has to be three. Whatever it is I want, for some reason, it has to be three of them. Can't be one. It can't be two. It has to be three. Now that's just a peculiarity of mine. That wouldn't be true for everybody, but for some reason, it's always been true of me. If uh, I was interested in watches, so I bought what I thought was a really good watch. It was a Tag Heuer, and it was an expensive watch. At least I thought it was. It was $300. To me, that was like outrageous. This is in the 1980s. Buy a watch for $300, you got to be crazy. Nobody wears $300 watches. So I bought that watch and found out about better watches. I found out, well, the best watch, they say the best watch is a Rolex. So I, I made enough money to buy a Rolex, and I bought the best Rolex. I bought a solid gold Rolex Submariner, which is very expensive. And they sell for $35,000. Uh, that wasn't enough. Then I had to have a Rolex GMT Master. Then I had to have a Rolex Explorer. I had three. Then I was happy. And I never cared much about watches after that. I still like watches because it's ingrained in me. In other words, that's a samskara, but it's a harmless samskara. I still like bicycles, but I'm not passionate about them. I still like watches, but I'm not passionate about them. I wanted children, but I'm not uh, passionate about children anymore. I wanted to get married, but I don't care about being married anymore. I don't care about my children. I don't care about being married. I don't care about watches. I don't care about bicycles. I don't care about anything whatsoever except for a few things, a few simple, wholesome things. And I found out that the things I care about are the same things that Yogananda really cared about, and the same things that Vivekananda really cared about. And how do I know that? Well, because I studied and I listened to disciples of Yogananda and uh, uh, his ideas, his thoughts, his life. And as he advanced in life, he aged very quickly. Uh, he got old very quickly. He got tired very quickly because he did everything to the extreme. He slept very little. Most most yogis don't contrary to popular belief, they don't live very long. Yogis that are in a life of service because their service is very intense and they don't look after themselves and they age very quickly. Uh, so Yogananda was exhausted and he said, I just dream of going back to India and being an unknown yogi, just roaming the Himalayas and just waking up with God, waking up with nature, having uh, the birds and the cows and my meditation and my uh, Mahatmas, my gurus, to be with Sri Yukteswar, to be with Lahari Masaya, to be with James Lynn, things like this. And he never got to have those things. Uh, Vivekananda, exact same thing happened. I studied everything I could about Vivekananda and also heard firsthand accounts. Um, I also read all the diaries of all the disciples of Ramakrishna. So I got viewpoints of Vivekananda from lots of different viewpoints. So I learned lots of different things about him. And uh, he also died very young, and he wore himself out too. And towards the end, that's what he wanted. He said, "Oh, I just want to re- live in the Himalayas with my animals in my little garden and just enjoy the sunrise and the sunset and nature and God and a simple, be unknown uh, and have that life." Uh, do you think that uh, Yogananda wanted to be a spiritual teacher? Do you think that Vivekananda wanted to be a spiritual teacher? Do you think they still want to continue to be spiritual teachers? Do you think that that's important to them? I know almost not everybody, but a lot of people want to be spiritual teachers. Uh, this little town I live in is a small southern little town. There's only 18,000 people that live here. And I just found out that the mayor of this town, which is it's just a little nothing town. Lucretius is in there. Um, the mayor of the town. Now, this is southern. This is Christian Baptist uh, town. If you don't believe in Jesus, if you believe in anything other than Jesus, people won't talk to you. Well, I just found out that the mayor's wife teaches Kriya Yoga. The mayor of this town, his wife teaches Kriya Yoga. Do you know how she teaches Kriya Yoga? She downloaded how to teach Kriya Yoga from the internet. And she printed it out and she gives the printouts to people. And uh, there's one page of the basics of Kriya Yoga. Do this, do this, do this, do this. Follow the breath. Be a vegetarian. Do this posture and do this and that. And she's a teacher at Kriya Yoga. Is she a teacher at Kriya Yoga? Uh, so the most people that are trying to teach you something are the people that you want to avoid, especially about real subjects. Do you think a master artist is trying to teach you about art? Um, a master artist is painting. They don't have time for you. Uh, uh, there's famous stories of masters, disciples wanted to be disciples, and I'd come to them and said, "Please give me initiation." They told me that you're a perfect master. Please give me initiation. And they said, leave me alone." There's even stories of, I read the stories, they would throw rocks at them. Someone would come and disturb them, and they would throw rocks at them to go away,
Guru,
get away from me.
Guruji,
Yes.
Guruji, I had a question.
Hmm.
This was in continuation to what Sunny asked about God's will, and also what you were talking about existing people like Sri M and who practice Kriya Yoga. Uh, I just wanted to know because personally, it has been with me that I did everything because I thought Sadhguru was was one of the most important or whatever, I mean, liked person, and I followed him, and I had booked everything, and to go and have, like, they have these in Noida when he was coming. In fact, I didn't want to go to Chennai towards, and I booked something in Noida, and he came to Noida, so I booked there. And it just so happened that my dog died the same morning that I was supposed to go there. So I just couldn't go there. It also happened with Sri M. I know Sri M because it is somebody I know was in the same school as Sri M's school. I thought he was the perfect person for me to learn Kriya Yoga from. And I read all his books and everything. And I really willed it that, I booked my tickets twice to go there, and somehow the other programs got cancelled. And then I come across I mean, Archana ji on the, this thing, and I came to know. So now, where is God's will in this? Because I tried everything. I tried what was there. So when we talk of God's will, is it helping us not go there, or so I just was wanted some clarification on that.
No, I've had all the same experiences, but I grew up in a different time than you did. So but fortunately, I wasn't exposed to all the media. So there was no media about gurus. Uh, there was no where to go, what to do. There's no internet. Uh, there was no autobiography of a yogi at that time that hadn't been released in the bookstores where I lived. Um, so uh, I experienced. I went to spiritual teachers that were nearby in the United States, and they weren't they weren't Indian, but they had some Indian philosophy, and uh, one I didn't know any better. I thought he was quite a remarkable person, uh, but he was the head of a commune. And do, do you know anything about communes in America in the 1960s? Uh, well, that was in a time of free free love. Everybody slept with everybody. That was the 1960s. That's what communes were. There's no there was no ownership. I own this, you own that. Uh, Everything was for everybody, and love was free. Uh, so he spoke about spiritual things that were true. So I listened to that. Uh, but the rest of it didn't appeal to me at all. So I learned from him uh, some good spiritual philosophy that I that appealed to me, and I thought was good. Um, but I didn't follow it up with anything further than that. I certainly didn't go to go to the commune. And then other spiritual teachers were in the United States. I went and listened to them, but I wouldn't have gone back. Uh, none of it appealed to me at all. I didn't see anything of substance. I didn't see anything of substance to Swami Rama. A lot of people respect Swami Rama. He still has an institution in Pennsylvania, I think it is. And he wrote an autobiography, living in the Himalayas, living with the gurus in the Himalayas. So he did that book before Sri M did that book, and it was real popular. I read the book because I was interested in the subject, but it had wonderful stories in it, but I found nothing. Yeah, living with Himalayan masters, I found nothing in it interesting at all. Then Swami Muktananda uh, was a very he had Shakti powers, very powerful Shakti powers that were uh, demonstrable. He could do it, and he could change people's uh, experience and their consciousness, and that did not appeal to me at all. I didn't like anything about him. So I went to I go to different places, I go to different people, and I still will, but not like I did before because now uh, I know what's genuine. I know what I like, I know what I don't like, and I have more, um, I guess you could say, sophistication. So, like chocolate, when I was a child, milk chocolate, uh, like a chocolate Easter bunny, I thought that was great, wonderful chocolate. And then when I became an adult, my neighbor was a French chocolatier, and he made really good French chocolate. Now that's really, if you have really true handmade French chocolate, you're not going to eat milk chocolate at a dime store. So I pass up the milk chocolate. I like the good chocolate. But so as you become more experienced and more sophisticated, you like better things. Uh, but you can also be very inexperienced, but have a very uh, unsophisticated uh, because of your unsophistication, you don't overthink things, and you you believe everything that you hear. So if the subject is spirituality, you believe everything that you hear about spirituality. Now, I was like that. If it had to do with spirituality, my immediate reaction was, I believe it. So if I was in the time that you're in, if I was exposed to Satguru, I would have been exactly like you, but I believe it. This is true. He's a true guru. If I read the book of Shriyam, I would be like you immediately. I believe this is where I'm going to go. This is what I'm going to do. Uh, but I wasn't born in that time. Um, so uh, we go through these different experiences to learn from. Spiritual realization isn't just about uh, learning more. It's about uh, removing false ideas mostly. So it's mostly about being disappointed. I spent 8 years with a direct disciple of Yogananda, and I thought he was wonderful. But I spent 8 years with him. So as I spent more time with him, I I started to find out that he wasn't so wonderful. And my opinion of him now, he's died now, but my opinion of him now is very low. Uh, I, 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 I've never had anybody be as dishonest with me as he was, other than a few people. There's been some other people that have been dishonest, but he was the most dishonest person. He lied about everything. He pretended to not be pretentious. Uh, he he put off airs of experience where he had no experience. Uh, and he had a pretty good following because he was a disciple of Yogananda. So everywhere he went, he said, I'm a direct disciple of Yogananda. I'm a direct disciple of Yogananda. I'm a direct disciple of Yogananda. Direct disciple of Yogananda. So that's why I went to meet him, because he's a direct disciple of Yogananda. So if 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 today, if not knowing what I know now, if I saw that somebody says they're a direct disciple of Babaji, I would go to that person and say, well, he's a direct disciple of Babaji. I'm going to go. And so you go and you learn. You say, and Ramakrishna said to do that. He said, test me, just like a, a, a gold vendor tests gold. When you come to sell your gold, he buys it, he tests it, he weighs it. What's the percentage of gold? He said, test your guru exactly like that. He said, test me exactly like that. See if I'm genuine. Um, do do these gurus ask you to test them like that? Uh, not that I've heard of. The Self-Realization Fellowship and invite you to test them. Well, they do in their literature. They said, try it and you'll be delighted. That's advertising. Everybody sends you free samples for advertising. Try it and you'll be delighted. And you try it and you're delighted at first, but then a week or two later, you're not quite as delighted as you were in the beginning. Your delightment starts to fade. But truth, your delightment never fades. Now you can't judge a guru by his actions. So that's kind of mysterious, isn't it? Um, I've known genuine true gurus to do strange things I would think were things that didn't seem to be in line with the character of a guru. Now, I'm not talking about bad things. I'm just talking about strange things. Um, that I thought, would a true guru ever do such a thing as that? Um, so you can't judge them by their actions. And all gurus don't necessarily respect the norms of society or the laws of convention or society. You would think that they do. Um, yeah, when in Rome, do as Romans do, or and morality, in other words, follow the morals. Well, who sets the morals? What are the morals? There's morals set by God, and there's morals set by man. Which ones are you following? Uh, the number one is to seek God with all your heart, nothing else. Uh, that's the highest moral as far as I know. And how many do that? They're more concerned about other people's morals. An example is the Beatles were infatuated with uh, uh, Mahesh Yogi and Rishikesh, and they brought the whole world, man. They televised, they told, they all went there, and they brought their girlfriends to Rishikesh to learn from the master guru. Well, he wasn't a master guru, but to the Beatles he was, because they were just exposed to yoga for the first time. So in their eyes, he was a master guru. He just simply taught mantra meditation. He didn't teach knowledge. He didn't teach truth. He gave spiritual philosophy, and then he initiated you into a mantra, just like just like the mayor's wife. She teaches Kriya Yoga. Uh, and then they found out there's some rumor because I was living at the time. It was in all the news because I was there when the Beatles first came on the Ed Sullivan Show. I watched it live. I thought what a sensation they were. Well, they found out they went to Rishikesh. They brought their girlfriends and I think maybe a wife or so, and they were rock superstars. They were not moral people. They had sex. They did drugs. Well, they found out some rumor. I don't know if it was true or whatever that he was seeing one of his female disciples, and so they became enraged and they publicly denounced him. He's not a true guru. He can't be a guru. Uh, whereas they all had their girlfriends, they had their wives, and uh, they weren't practicing morals themselves. And they judged him on this, whether it was true or not. I don't know. I don't think it was true. But maybe it was. I don't know. Uh, that wouldn't make any difference to me whatsoever. If he was teaching knowledge, he was teaching truth. Uh, I I always thought Yogananda did everything perfectly, but I've heard stories that yeah, I never imagined I would ever hear. That he had problems with his female disciples, for example, and that he got one of them pregnant. Uh, I don't know if it's true or not. Makes no difference to me whatsoever. Doesn't diminish my regard or my love for him in any way whatsoever, whether it's true or not. I'm not enraged that somebody would say such a thing, and I'm not enraged that if maybe it was true. 'Cause it doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is him, the person, and is he true with me? Is he honest with me? Does he speak to my heart? Uh, so it is demonstrative, but this is how it's demonstrative. You saw the little post that I made with um, uh, who is Babaji, and I said I did the picture. It's a AI rendering, of course, of Vivekananda with a dog, and urban India, where you see the train in the background. It's a beautiful picture. They call it AI art. I guess you could call it art, and but it's a beautiful picture. Uh, and the thought occurred to me from my realization is uh, why do people ask these questions? I've never had these questions. I've never had a desire to know who Babaji is. I never had a desire to meet Babaji. If I did meet him, I would be extremely happy. But it's not a desire of mine. Uh, but if there was a litter of puppies in the road in New Delhi on the sidewalk, and there were a bunch of people that wanted to see Babaji, and somebody told them Babaji is right over there, they would stampede over those puppies. I guarantee you to go for Babaji. They would kill those puppies under their feet in their eagerness to get to Babaji. This is how people are. Uh, if you read the post, what I say is, if you want to know Babaji, then know yourself, but also know uh, uh, the importance of life. Know the importance of the life of a lizard. Notice especially the importance of the life of a dog. If a dog is hungry, give it food. If a dog is thirsty, give it water. And if you have compassion, if you have love for the lowliest of creatures, then you'll have an idea of who Babaji is. And Babaji doesn't want you to be seeking him out in the Himalayas. He wants you to be kind and loving to other people. He wants you to be kind and loving and uncriticizing of people. And he wants you to be kind and loving to God's creatures. He wants you to be loving and kind and compassionate and to do good things. And if that doesn't interest you, you'll never know Babaji. Uh, you don't. This is how you know God. This is how you. This is the secret of spiritual realization. I can sum it up, and then we'll end. But I sum it up, and I really thought that I would realize God through meditation. So I meditated for 12, 14 hours a day, uh, and lived like Buddha. I mean, I got down to a skeleton. But that's not how I realized God. Not through any austerity, not through any practice. It was it was it was only by Divine Mother's grace. That's the only way God can be realized. So if you're kind, if you're sincere, if you're honest, if you're loving, if you're compassionate for the smallest of creatures, for people that you can't get anything from, people in need, creatures in need, uh, and not ones that you can get something in return, uh, then Divine Mother is pleased with that. And Babaji is the same as Divine Mother, uh, uh, from what I know. Uh, the authentic stories I've heard of Babaji is his primary message is uh, love, of especially be uncritical of others, don't judge others. Uh, Ramakrishna's message was exactly the same. He said that realization comes through Divine Mother and Divine Mother alone. And if she's pleased with you, uh, she might give you realization. Yogananda said the exact same thing. He said, countless yogis have been sorely disappointed, even in their samadhi, practicing samadhi for decades, that they haven't realized God because they haven't been selfless. God is realized through selflessness. When there's self, there's no realization. When there's no self, realization floods in. So you have to remove yourself. And you do that. You do that through service. The Mahatmas told me, do service, do service, do service. I said, I don't want to do service. Why? What's that going to do for me? How will I realize God? I want to realize God. I was doing I was doing physical work, giving me realization. Realization comes in meditation. I was giving money, like, giving me realization. It comes through meditation. Uh, I was helping others, giving me realization. I want to meditate longer and better. And this is how realization comes. So I didn't realize this uh, until after realization. Uh, Fortunately, my realization came through Divine Mother, and exactly like that. She she came to me and gave me realization. Just like I would come to you and give you papaya, exactly like that. There's nothing mystical about it. It was a fact. Um, and everything's been completely changed totally from that moment forward. And then that's when I had the real compulsion to start helping others. I, I never wanted to be a spiritual teacher. I never wanted to help others spiritually. I wanted to help myself. I had no interest in teaching anything or uh, communicating anything at all. I still don't. But what I do want to do is sincere people. I have a fondness for sincere people. So if I have a fondness for you, it's because of your sincerity. If I have a special love for you, it's because of your devotion to God. If you don't have devotion for God, I have absolutely no interest in you at all. It doesn't mean that I hate you. There's lots of people. Most people don't have devotion to God, but I'm kind and I'm considerate and I'm compassionate to them. But I'm not going to associate with them. I'm not going to spend my time with them. I'm going to spend my time by myself or with the ones that I love and the ones that love me. So it's really as simple as that. Well, not quite as simple as that. You have to realize that. So the the hard part is getting rid of all the complications that you've accumulated to get to the simplicity. So that's the complication of simplicity. But when you've done that, then you realize, well, why didn't I do this earlier? Well, it's because you couldn't. You weren't able to. It's like you can't renounce the desire until you've satisfied the desire. Then you can renounce it. Like, well, I really, really want a papaya. No, papayas are bad for you. You should renounce it. But I really want it. I'm thinking about papayas. I'm hungry. I want the taste of papaya. Just don't think about a papaya. Well, the more you tell me to think about it, the more I think about it. And so what satisfies your desire for papaya? Well, papaya does. You eat papayas and you eat papayas and you eat papayas and you eat papayas and you eat enough of them, you'll probably never desire another papaya ever again. That's what worldliness is. You get enough of it, you're sick of it forever. If you're still wanting it, it's really because you haven't had enough of it yet. And it's when you've had enough of the world and you're not tempted by the world anymore is when you can really start to seek God and have a real strong response. Okay, Om Tat Sat, and I'll see everybody next week.
Pranam, Guruji.
That's it, Gurudev.
Thank you.
Gurudeva.
Om Tat Sat.
Thank you, Guruji.
Om Tat Sat.
Om Tat Sat.
That's it.